Hi, my name is Katie Head, and today I'll be speaking on my model of communication. I believe that my model of communication is quite simple. I believe that there is a sender who is the person who has developed a message that they want to convey to another person, and then I also believe that there's the receiver. Both the sender and the receiver have two big points that they need to work on when they are communicating. The sender has to make sure that their message is clear, concise, and that it is easy for the other person to understand. The receiver has to take in that information and process it, encode it, decode it, and then be able to provide some feedback to the sender. That the receiver has to understand what the sender was intending to say, so like if I was to go to a person and say, I would like to have Chick-fil-A for dinner, the other person has to understand that I would like to have Chick-fil-A for dinner. Whereas if there was something lost in translation, they might think that I would like McDonald's for dinner. So that is why the receiver also has different forms of ways they can convey feedback to the sender. They can give verbal cues, such as yes and no. They can give nonverbal cues, such as head nods and kind of body language. Whereas if I said, hey, I'd like to go to Chick-fil-A, and the person didn't really say anything, I am taking that my message was not conveyed clearly, and that person needs some more for me to come up with a different way to say, hey, I'd like to go to Chick-fil-A. Another way that the receiver can let me know is through nonverbal feedback, and one way they can do that is nodding their head, facing me, giving me more affirmation through their body language, and that is the way they can do that. Now, oftentimes, through communication that's not in person, messages can be lost through text messages, email, because there is not a face-to-face aspect of that, and messages can get lost or misunderstood, and that is up to the sender to then go back and say, hey, this is what I intended. That's often when they want to pick up the phone and say, hey, I meant to say this. What did you take away from what I said? And then that way they can be more on a level playing ground. The channel that they're communicating in is very important. So if they're communicating through email, they need to make sure that everything is spelled out and everything is clear and concise. They can use, so if they're giving bad information, they can use a direct strategy where they can say, hey, or the indirect strategy, which would be more appropriate if it's something that's hurting them personally. They can say, hey, this is the reason for this, and this is why we're doing this, and so that way the receiver has more knowledge as to why something is happening. And that is my model of communication, is that the sender is conveying a message of value to the receiver, and the receiver has to provide feedback to the sender, letting them know that they understand the message.